Okay, it looks like I'm live. I'm going to assume that I am. Um, cool. Let's do some things. Hi, let's start at the beginning. Hi, I'm Joshua, and I guess you've come to my Twitch channel or you're watching this on my YouTube channel, so thank you for that. And apparently you're interested in either the game or game development of some varying degree. So yeah, thanks for watching. Today is November 20th, 2016, and today I'm working on my game Delver, which is a procedural first-person dungeon crawler. Um, the website I have up here on screen right now is delvergame.com. If you're interested, we are in early access. You can help support us by purchasing in early access, but if you're kind of like if that's not your thing, no worries. I'm not pushing it on you. You can wait till it release and then make up your mind then, or just simply watching the stream is also very is a good motivating factor for me. Okay, so I think that's who I am, what I'm working on. Let's go ahead and I like to jump right into what we've done over the past week. So let me just go ahead and go into my repository for Delver. And I'm just going to do a git log with some pretty printing here. And it looks like over the last week, it's been kind of a slow week, mostly just because. So for those of you who don't know, I do game dev in my free time, and this week, not a lot of free time. I'm a stay-at-home father, so um, this week I don't know, like my son is sleeping better, but I'm sleeping worse, so it's just been a rough week. So just one change by me and a few changes by Chad. So we're kind of just tweaking the explosions. So I added particle dampening, which basically allows a particle to change its velocity over time. So that is now a property that you can put on particles or on particle emitters. This is mostly used, for example, like with explosions, like you want the dust to quickly move away from the explosion, but then slow down to a normal velocity. So you can do that with that. Um, so this is from my last stream. This is shortly thereafter. Looks like Chad tweaked the explosions make smaller particles, but more in the dust ring, which is cool. Um, Particle friction is based on frame rate. So yeah, that's one of those things where you need to take into account uh, bah, 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 bah. Like when you're doing your own physics, like integrations, you need to take into account the time step, especially if you're not doing a fixed time step for physics. In our case, we're not. We're just using just a variable time step, and we need to take into account for that. Let me see. So Chad added a happy little waterfall to the camp, which I did not know about, but that's cool. We'll check the happy little waterfall out. Um, Fixed a case for the level. Yeah, so this was a bug. So sometimes when you would change levels, instead of showing the level name, it would just show like floor one, floor two, floor three. Looks like he's shored that up. And then he's also tweaked how much of the plate is on the floor for the spike trap. So the spike trap has a metal plate that the spikes come out of, and I guess he was feeling it was maybe too much of a step up for that, so he kind of lowered that down to the floor. Excuse me. Um, so looking at chat, it looks like we have a few folks here. Chris is here, so hey Chris. Looks like Damien End is here. Hey Damien End. Benjamin Landon was here way early, so hey Ben, if you're here, if you're still around, cool. So let's go ahead and let's just take a look at where we kind of left off. Like fired up. I think last stream was mostly me hunting down issues with why when we were getting particles from the cache pool that sometimes the sprite atlas would be incorrect. And as these things always go, I managed to track down the issue maybe 15 minutes after the stream ended. So those of you who are curious, how are what the issue was is all of our um, a lot of the objects in our game are based off of an entity base class. So almost everything derives from entity. Um, and entity is pretty generalized. So in order to be able to draw um, anything, the entities have a data member called drawable, which is an abstract class, which just represents something that the renderer knows how to draw. So, for example, a sprite is a class that derives from entity, and it basically has its drawable. It's a drawable sprite, which the drawable sprite derives from drawable, versus a model, which a 3D model also derives from entity, but its drawable is a drawable model and not a drawable sprite. So what happens is a lot of the properties for the sprite is set on the drawable, and I wasn't correctly setting those when we pulled a particle out of the cache pool. So once the drawable was set, we could change the texture, but we couldn't necessarily change the atlas. So that's been fixed. Well, actually, I just sidestepped the issue by just newing up the one particle that I wanted to have a special atlas, because it's fairly infrequent. Doing it probably not that big a deal. If it does become a perf hit, I can always go back and fix it. Kobora X HD. Hey, thank you for stopping by the stream. Let's go ahead and just take a peek at where things are. Go ahead and erase that and start again, because again, I think Chad said he added a new waterfall to the start area. So, oh, there it is. Ah, he did an angled waterfall. That's cool. Very nice. There's interesting. We could probably add. Let me just add. We could add some particles to that, or is it? It just depends on how fast he thinks it's going. But yeah, that's nice. Actually, that's a nice little visual touch he added there. I like how he added, like, it goes further and further back, like they're actually, like the waterfall's coming from somewhere, which is cool. Yeah, and it kind of actually brightens up this area a little bit too, because we had a lot of trees back here and it's pretty dark. So I think this is a nice little change. Nice. So a lot of the explosion work we've been doing right now is kind of best illustrated by exploding potions. So you can attack a potion, and it explodes, and it puts out a little ring of dust particles, and it does some other fancy effects. So what I was playing around with, I think I've reverted the changes. Let me just check. There's the fire wand. Okay, so what it does is what happened? So the changes are still okay here. It looks like for some odd reason I've lost the coloring is incorrect on that. Let me figure out why that is. So this is the fire wand. Actually, do I still have changes? Yeah, so I still have these changes from last time. Okay, cool. So I need to, so I'm gonna keep working on this, make the explosion really nice. The thought is to have the wands in Delver, because Delver is pretty heavily inspired by old 90s first-person games like Daggerfall, Ultima Underworld, and Doom and Duke Nukem. So we're kind of thinking of our wands as basically first-person shooter weapons. So I'm trying to push the fire wand more in the rocket launcher direction. So let me see. So for the explosion of the fire wand, I'm using that correct atlas. It's going through the correct frames. The scale is correct. The color is correct here. Actually, I think it's an issue where, let's see, Fulbright. True. I think there's some issue with our particle system that if a particle is not Fulbright, it actually won't take into, well, yeah, but it was tinting. Let me see. Is there some weird effect? Weird. No, no, Chris, I noticed like I think my webcam is making my shirt change color, which I don't know. That's not supposed to be a thing. Okay, so it looks like for some odd reason that our fire wand is the tint is showing up where it's not supposed to. So let me kind of figure out why that's happening. Yeah, let me, if that's distracting, I can just maybe if the camera sees less of my shirt, it'll be less weird. I don't know. I don't want it to be like, um, yeah, because it is kind of like popping in and out. Like, is it blue or is it gray? I don't know. Also, it's pretty overcast day, so there's not a lot of, yeah, light. Oh well. So less worried about my shirt, more worried about why this is doing what it's doing. So, is it here? So this color is pulled from the explosion. Let me add a breakpoint and kind of just step through and see what it's doing when we make an explosion. That's an old breakpoint. Cool. Let's go to camp. Okay. All right. So this is so basically when a magic projectile hits a piece of world geometry or an entity, we call the explode. Um, we create an explosion and then we call explode on it. Kind of self-explanatory. Let's just step over this stuff. I always forget these keys. I'm so used to Visual Studio. So F8 is over and into is so step over. So full bright is true. So I'm hard coding it true. And this color is red. Yeah. FF000 is red because this is, where is this color coming from? Let me look at my call stack and so this magic missile projectile, see what color it is. Have me watch. So this dot color is red. So somehow, oh, the explosion color dot color. So right here we're setting, okay. So we're setting the color of the explosion to the spell color. So for certain things we do want to do this, but for certain things we do not. So let me see. Chris is saying, why do you use IntelliJ over VS? As far as I know, Visual Studio does not support Java. There was a fallout way back when, like I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, between Java and MS, and they just haven't supported it since. I know some folks did some rudimentary support for the Minecraft tools for VS, but I don't think it actually supports Java. Yeah, if I'm wrong, please let me know because I do like VS. And disclaimer: I used to work for Visual Studio, so that's what I've had like several years of my life using. So actually, my entire professional career, I've always used Visual Studio, so that's what I'm most comfortable in. But using IntelliJ is fine. That's what Chad uses, so it's easy if our development environments are the same, because that way I can worry less about setting up like the builds and stuff, and he can just make sure that works. Brimstone Boy RZ says, "Hey Josh, hello Brimstone Boy RZ. Thank you for stopping by." So what I'm thinking about now is so the issue is some explosions use so let me just I'll pull up the explosions in Photoshop so you can see kind of what I'm talking about because it's kind of hard to explain, maybe not. So some of the particle effects are grayscale that we tint just through like color math, and some of the particles we use are actually they have color already, and we don't want to tint those. So like the leaves are green, and the planks are brown and the water's blue, etc. And then some of these up here, as you can see, they're grayscale. So what we can do is we can multiply them by a color, and we can tint them, and we can get a little bit more use out of them. So this is cool because they're way more, like you can use them in way more situations than these. But personally, as the artist on this project, yeah. So I guess I haven't explained my role, but I am the primary artist, and I do a lot of the level design for Delver. So I do all the 2D, 3D art. But the problem with multiplication is you don't get good hue shifting on your colors. So to explain that better, like what hue shifting is, I'll create just a simple. Let's make it real quick. So what's going on? What did I do to my background? How did I change my background color? Weird. F. There we go. Okay. So what I want to do is just basically create a gradient. Okay. And I will make this small. And then I will make it big again so that the gradation is way more apparent. What's going on? Why can't I can't use my mouse today for some odd reason. So here we have a nice little 5-color gradient. And literally when you do like color multiplication, actually let me change image mode, RGB color. So why can't I create? Okay. So it looks like just my layer palette's messed up for some odd reason. Yeah, sometimes when my Photoshop it's maybe, there we go. I still have no idea how I changed my background color. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Oh, so what it is if you do multiplication, it is literally just like in Photoshop, you can fill with a color, and you can change the blend mode to multiply. And that's basically effectively what tinting a sprite does, is you take the sprite color and you multiply it by, just the underlying color. So the closer it is to white, the closer it is to the original color you multiply it by, the closer it is to black, the closer to black it is, and that's what you get. But if we do something like add this board, for example, so let me just grab this piece of wood, and if we just kind of paste it underneath there, you see that we lose. It's just not as appealing. Like we just, I don't know, like. I guess the nice thing about the board here is if you notice, if I were to make a quick something like this and grab this, so the brightest color. Oh, why do we have weird? Let me just create a quick little gradient. So these are the actual colors I've used to create the board. And if you notice, if you look closely, they actually hue shift. So the bright actually starts out warmer than the dark. So the dark is more blue, and the warmer is more yellow or red. And as the color goes from light to dark, it also goes from warm to cold. And this is what's called hue shifting. You don't necessarily have to shift like that. You can shift in any direction you want. If you think it's easier, if you think it's cooler, maybe to shift from like a yellow to a green, depending upon what kind of feel you want. That's also totally fine. So that's why, like tinting. So that's why we tint some particles and we don't tint others. That's that long rant goes into. So it's just about artistic control. So with tinting, you get more use out of it, but you have less control as an artist. So it's just kind of a trade-off. So what I want to do is, on some sprites, let it tint, and some sprites not tint. Let me see. So it looks like folks. Let me see. So Damien says a friend sent you an email. If I have time to watch it. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I will. I thank you for emailing me. That's really cool. I will. I try to get back to people as fast as I can. I probably won't watch it on stream because I try to keep my streams focused to working on Delaware. But I will definitely give it a look and get back in touch. I'm very happy to share what little knowledge I have. Um, yeah, Johan is saying when he started out in 2000 that he used Notepad and a command line. So yeah, yeah, so over the past 15 years, the developer tools have gotten really nice. Because, yeah, I started programming back in the late 90s, and it was, yeah, like you did use just a text editor and a command line. And to be honest, in working in Visual Studio, even as of this year, a lot of devs still use Visual Studio for the text editing, and then they go to the command line to actually do the build and run tests and stuff like that. So that's still a very popular paradigm. I know a lot of the folks who do like JavaScript development also use a text editor and the command line, so it's still valid. I just use this for convenience. Cryo21 says hello. Hello, Cryo21. Okay, so what I want to do, what is this? That color is red. And what I wanted to do is to, so the magic missile projectile here has an explosion, is that right? So this explosion. So if I do a new watch, this dot explosion dot color. Okay, so what I think I can do here is I can make a decision. So here we can say something like if if this dot explosion dot color is null, then we go ahead and we set the color of the explosion to the color of the spell. But if we've explicitly defined a color for the explosion, so like in this particular JSON object, I am defining the color for the explosion as white, so we don't get any tinting on it. So go ahead and use that. And let me just make sure that this does what I think it does, because it's always good to test your code. So that is still red. Let me. Okay, there we go. It must again. Sometimes the old data gets serialized a little strange. But yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like. Cool. Let me add a potion and see if it behaves correctly as well. So what this should do is it should inherit the color from the spell, which it does. Nice. So that's great. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. Let me just add a quick comment. Actually, some people use a lot of comments, some people don't. I think this is fairly self-explanatory because comments can be good and bad. Because comments are nice if you're doing a tricky bit of programming, but if you don't maintain them, they become incorrect and misleading. So I think this is simple enough to understand that if this explosion color is null, so that means if we haven't defined the explosion color, go ahead and use the color from the spell. So let me just commit that. Explosions will only inherit spell color if their color is Thanks, Chris. Yeah, no, so I want to add a little bit more volume to that explosion because right now the explosion is for those of you who may have noticed, the explosion is just right now it's two things. Um, it is a ring of particles that are emitted from the center, and they are also a primary sprite in the middle as well. Um, Also, maybe I want to like tint um, the dust ring down a little bit because it seems a little well, I don't know. I mean, having color variation is good. Let me just take a look and see how that might happen. Because I think how we control it is just there's a make dust ring true, so it's not necessarily like a full-on JSON object that we can have control over, but maybe we want to. Let me look at dust ring. Actually, okay, that lives in the explosion class, so dust ring. And then, so this is just creating a bunch of particles, which is cool. So the easiest way is I could just add a property for the dust ring color. So something like public color dust ring color equals color dot white. So this basically would default to white, which would where is the dust ring color coming from? I could have swore. Yeah, so right here it's pulling it from. Again, I think I want to do something similar, so I'm going to remove that default value. I'm just going to say dust ring color. And if you specify a dust ring color, we'll tint the dust ring particle that color. If you don't, then we will let it inherit from the spell again. Let me see. Could you make the dust ring tinted orange? Yep. Oh, so Chris is saying he's talking about changing the tint over time, which is something I guess we could do, but we don't right now. I fake that a lot just by having by doing a frame animation for the particle color, which is one way of doing it. Again, that way I have better control over it. I'm not sure if I want to tackle that quite yet, but that is a good suggestion. Brimstone Boy RZ says, "Hey Josh, is there a possibility that I will ever release an unstable build?" I'm gonna have to say no, and it's mostly because I guess like because we're in early access on Steam. I know that we are in early access, and to some folks that means one thing, but to a lot of people, just the fact that we're on Steam means we are like a finished product quality. And I'm very leery about putting anything out there that is super rough. I would rather try to get it to a certain degree of polish before we even release it. Again, because the perception is that if you're on Steam, you're already like a finished product. And because technically, if you give me money for it, it kind of becomes a product at that point. And I just don't want to give you a bad thing. I want to make a good thing, and I want you to enjoy it. And I mean, rough edges are okay, but stuff that's just totally under development and yeah, unstable builds I can't ship. Maybe in a future project that isn't like maybe in the early stages of Delver, we shipped unstable builds all the time, but that was before we were a paid thing. Okay, so get particle. So I'm gonna do something here where if this dust string color is not null, p dot color equals this dot dust string color. So what that should do is it allows it to, again, inherit the color of the spell if it's not specified. Otherwise, we go ahead and we set it to the dust ring color. Then over here to my JSON, I just need to go over here and say dust ring color. And then it's a RGB triple. So right here, this would be white. Let me clean up the braces there. So what I would want it to be is let's make it half as bright, right? So make them 0.5 because right, we're just treating these colors as floats in between 0 and 1. And let's give that a whirl and see what it does. Okay, so let me create myself a fire wand, because that's what we're interested in kind of testing. Yeah, whoa! Whoa, why does it turn green at the end? Oh man. Again, this is, I think this is a cache, a pooling issue. Let me, yeah. So I think I'm making assumptions there because let me look at my cache pools. Get particle. Yeah, so okay, maybe in the free particle I need to man. So basically I think what's happening is we're pulling in the tint from somewhere else. Really weird. Yeah, so this is one of the issues with pooling. So pooling is a technique used when you are making, so when you're working in a managed language. So a managed language is, for example, is like C# or Java, and it's called managed because the memory management is handled for you. So in some languages like C or C++, you create pointers to locations in memory, and you the programmer have to decide when to allocate new memory and when to release it. Whereas in managed languages, you don't. So ultimately, generally, managed languages also are interpreted. So like there's usually a garbage collector that runs in the background that will determine when to free up all the memory that is no longer being used. And this can create performance issues. So pooling is a way to not continually create and delete things, but to create a bunch of things and then to set them active or inactive depending upon if you need them or not. But the problem is you need to make sure that their state is totally cleared out when you're reusing them. So for some odd reason, it's getting the. So if I comment that out, does it still behave the same way? So those are fine. They're full bright particles. And the fireflies are tinted particles of that kind of yellowy green color. But if I were to throw this on the ground and attack it. Yep, that was fine. Weird. Okay. I just don't understand why that is different. Obviously, the reason it's behaving differently is because it's actually exercising a different code path. I'm just curious why. Let's create fire wand and explode some stuff. So, see, after the first few explosions, we're starting to pulling in the. Even there, we're pulling in some different. Yeah, see now the color on the that is all messed up. What if I, instead of setting it manually, if I just use this? So color p particle color equals. I use a ternary operator, which I don't really like, but whatever. So let's do this dot string color equals null. Then we want to do color. Otherwise, we want to do this dot string color. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I'm pretty sure it's called a ternary operator. Let me make sure I'm getting my. Yeah. So what it is it's basically so a ternary operator takes a condition. So the condition here is the dot string color is null, and it evaluates it. So if that is true, then we use the value after the question mark. If it is false, we use the value after the colon, and it's similar to something like color p if dot string color equals null, p dot color equals color, else p dot color equals this dot string color. So basically, this and this this statement is equivalent to this block of statements. So it just depends on your preference. I kind of don't like it, but here I guess it kind of makes sense. Let me just try it and see if it works. Because basically, and also I need to use that variable, right? So let's see if I get the same behavior or not. Because maybe when we request the particle through the cache pool, it's doing something different than if I were to manually set the color property on the particle. And Chris is asking me, do I need the null? So what he's implying is some languages. Actually, that seems to have fixed it. So apparently, it's better to request the particle through the cache pool than to actually manually set the color myself. So what Chris is talking about, let me actually do I have. Can I make it big in it or? Sublime, there we go. I have multiple text editors installed for multiple reasons, and it's already open. Geez. Okay, so so Chris is saying something along the lines of, so I had this thing called the particle, and let's say this is Java. That's what Um, that's what Delver's in, right? So particle, particle, and then we say um, or particle equals cache pools get particle, something like that. And then I want to evaluate a property on this dot color. So there's a potential that this could be a um, there's a potential that the color property could be null. So um, so what Chris is asking is, I was checking for null by saying if particle dot color equals null, and then we do we do something here. Um, and some languages allow you to do something like this, if not particle color. And um, um, and these are, I think in Java, I think they are both allowed. But personally, I always prefer to be explicit. Um, so I always say if I'm checking something is null, I will just compare it to null. Um, Same thing with like properties on a class. So um, like like color equals color.white. I would prefer to say this dot color equals color.white. Just because I like being explicit about I prefer being explicit over implicit. I think it just makes the code a little bit easier to read and understand. Um, yeah, just personal preference. Hinban says, why don't you like ternary operators? It's because, I mean, like they can be okay. Like ternary operators can be something like um, float age equals, true 1 or 10, right? And that's pretty easy to grok. But people start doing crazy stuff where they'll start nesting ternary operators where you have like age equals, so true, they'll start putting stuff like this, and then you can replace one of these obviously with a ternary, and you can replace one of these with a ternary, and then you're looking at this crazy statement of like, what does it actually do? And I unfortunately have seen some of this in my professional career, where I at least a double like a ternary nested within a ternary, and it's just so hard to understand. I prefer to try to write code that, for example, if Chris or Johan were to come by and pick it up, they would immediately understand it. Because if you're working, basically, if you're working with anybody else and they have to like sit down and kind of like really take time to understand and digest like your code at like a statement level, that's really going to slow down their productivity. So I try to program with other folks in mind. And also I think making it just makes your code easier to understand for future Joshua, because when he comes back, he won't remember any of this. And I'm trying to make my life easy on me as well. Yep. Okay, cool. So, yay, programming talk. That's fun. But yeah, right. I mean, again, I don't necessarily believe in like totality or like in like 100% all the time do this. Like in this case, it's fairly readable, so I can live with it. Um, Again, like then the question comes is if I take this statement and I put it here, that to me that makes this whole line here, this line 144, less readable, simply because there's this weird ternary operator in the middle of this method or this function call. So again, it's always a judgment call. And it's one of those things where like I know the right thing when I see it. So um, yeah, sorry. I mean that's the best guidance I can do. So that was making the dust ring darker, which I think is cool. Um, so basically, what this allows it to do is for explosions, we want the dust ring to maybe be a little brighter than the actual explosion. So if you notice, the explosion itself um, has kind of this dark. Uh, the particles are dark there, but maybe the ones that it's kicking up aren't as dark. And also, um, with these, we don't want to break the behavior of the potions where they inherit the color of the spell. So yeah, so that's also still preserved, which is cool. Um, yeah, so again, more programming talk. People are talking about prefixes for basic types. That's also called, I believe, Hungarian notation. It can be. I personally don't like to do that. Like, again, going back to it, like people will do something like um, float f age equals 1.0, or they'll do float f underscore age equals 1.0. And also they'll do something, they'll even do something too, like well, let's say like float m underscore age. If you've ever seen this, and this typically means that it's a private data member, and then you of course you can get floats mf underscore age. You can get these weird like um, yeah. Um, again, I don't like these notations because luckily a lot of modern IDEs you can tell the types pretty easily. Yeah, again, it's style is style. I think with programming style, as long as the team is on the same page across the board, that's best ultimately. Okay, so this let me commit this because I don't want to lose this. So dust rings can now be tinted. Cool. Decently productive little stream so far. What I want to do is I want to also add I want to add a few things. I want to add some particles that fly out, and I want to add some more particles to help with the volume. Um, um, so let's see. How would I do that? Um, so I think I might just do something like similar to how we have a dust string. Maybe we'll have a public Boolean make flyaways. I'll call those false, and we'll have a public. This is just like prototyping code right now, just to see if my thoughts are even going to be like legit. So public color uh, fly away color. Yeah, so Johan is pointing out that a lot of languages actually now have style guides, which I think is very interesting. I first came across this years ago with Python, because Python has a pretty strict style guide. They even have they have a proposal. So Python has proposals for improvements, and I think it's PEP number 8 is unifying um, how the things should be styled, and it's a pretty strict style guide. But the nice thing is whenever you look at anybody's code who follows this style, it makes it way more clear what's going on. So I'm just going to copy this here, something similar like if make dust string. So I want to say if this dot make flyaways and options. So this is just basically checking this graphics detail level. On some devices, all these particles we're creating are too much, so you can turn the graphics down and then we won't create them. So this is just honoring that setting. And I want to do is I want to make not a dust string, but I want to make flyaways. make flyaways. Okay. Then this should call this dot make flyaways. And then similarly here, what we're going to do is we're going to request some particles, and we are going to yeah, so Chris is saying they were taught Hungarian notation in C++ because it's widely used in the industry. Yeah, yes and no. So I've worked for both Lexmark and for Microsoft, and Lexmark is definitely a C++ shop, and I was mostly C# at Microsoft and JavaScript, but I also touched some C++ code, and they do it differently. So there's no real universal truth, unfortunately, in the C++ world. Everybody has their own sort of flavor. Okay, so for flyaways, I want to do something similar for this. So I want to um, make a flyaway particle. So I want to request so basically I'm just doing the same thing here. So this particle color, if flyaway color is null, it's going to be white. Otherwise, actually no, it should just be color. It should be, we should go ahead and inherit the color from the spell, because that's what everything seems to do. Otherwise, use the defined flyaway color. We're going to grab ourselves a particle, and then what the flyaways are going to do is they're going to they're basically going to leave little trails of particles behind them as they kind of hop away from the explosion. So let me see. I want to create particles. So what I want to do is I almost want to have like a particle with a particle system attached to it. Which I think should be possible. Let me try. Let me just try to get the motion of the particle correct and see if I can attach a particle system to it. Because if I remember correctly, let me see, p dot attach. Yeah. So one nice thing about our entity system is you can attach entities to other entities. So I ought to be able to generate a particle that pops away, that behaves, that honors gravity, and then I'll have another particle system attached to it that will emit smoke puffs as it goes. So hopefully that helps. Maybe it doesn't. So what I'm going to do sometimes actually is I just like using we have since we so for those of you who don't know, when you buy Delver, we give you the Delver editor, which is what we use to actually make all the levels, and it's also what we use to preview a lot of the behavior for the new weapons, enemies, and in my case, particle systems. So, so for example, you can place like a particle, and I have this puff effect I kind of done in previous streams. So this is a nice little puff effect, and this is a very similar one that I use for the arrows. So the enchanted arrows have this effect attached to them. So as they fly through the air, they emit this, which I think is a cool little effect. And as you see, as I drag it around, it kind of simulates what it looks like as it goes through the air. Okay, we'll turn off the live preview. But what I want it to do is I want it to, so if let me just create just a entity basic particle emitter. So this is just a vanilla emitter, and it just does, it kind of does what we want it to do. It creates these little particles that just kind of pop. So we want to play around some of the properties here to make it have a little bit more of a pronounced pop. So Himban is saying, are you using particles for the explosion? Some look like sprites. So for us, There is no difference. Particles are sprites. It just depends. Like for example, this sprite here is just simply a 1 pixel sprite. Um, so yeah, um, yeah, and the tabs versus spaces, like people get really heated about this for some odd reason, and I won't jump into it, but I do have my own preference as well. Hard208 says hello. Hello, Hard208. Thank you for stopping by. Um, so looking at the properties on this particle, what they're doing is they're popping and then they're landing on the ground. So maybe I want to play with the velocity a little bit. So random velocity, if I bump up there's a spread and there's a particle velocity. So if I always give it a z velocity, that should mean that it always should pop up. Also, I need to increase the lifetime, it looks like, as well. So maybe 40. Okay, that's looking more correct. I think what I want to do is I want to add more variance to the x and to the y, just so they kind of get thrown out. Apparently that's not enough. So that was for the particle random velocity. So try the x and y. It doesn't seem to be changing that much, which I'm not sure why. Particle random velocity. That's very strange. Because basically I want these to kick out. So yeah, I mean, I can just not worry about this and just start with the very basic particle. So let's do that. Let's do, yep, we'll just pull this code here too. We want to randomize the start location just a little bit, just so it's not perfect. I don't want it to be floating. Random lifetime is okay. Let me just let me give it a long lifetime so I can see how it's going to behave. So p.lifetime equals 100. So the animated sprite for the center of the explosion is still a particle. It just has no velocity and it doesn't do anything crazy. It's just an animated sprite that's a particle. Nipe saying, will Delver be on the Steam Christmas sale? You know, that's a good question. We have been on the Steam Christmas sale in the past, and it has done very well for us. But also, we want to release, I think, sometime next year. I've actually committed to saying we're going to release next year. So I don't know how I feel about going on sale before we release, like right before we release. I think right now, being in early access, priced at $7.99 is still a decent price. Like where I live, $7.99 will basically allow me to buy a beer or a coffee with a tip. So I don't think it's an outrageous amount of money to ask for. But so probably not. But I don't handle the business side of things. That's more Chad's department. So that's again mostly on him. But he generally does touch base with me before we do anything crazy. So the particle lifetime is that. And what I want is to set the now here's this whole thing. Let me just wholesale just copy this, and I'm just going to basically just chop out bits I don't need. I think that might be a better way to go about it. So this should create a ring of particles. And I think it's better too if the flyaways all, because if it's a random direction, there's a potential it goes straight up and straight down. I want them to all kind of push away. So I think doing the ring logic is still applicable. I just don't need a ring menu. So let's just start with 4. Um, this is all good. This is good. That's good. Check collision. I do want it to check collision. I don't want it to float. Let's go ahead and just say that the lifetime hard code to 100 right now. I don't, yeah, I can leave it at puff particle. Well, let me just leave it at particle. I think 0 is this. You can barely even see it right there as a pure white particle. So let's just leave it at p.text equals 0. I'm not going to worry about the scale right now. So I don't want to mess with the x and the y, but I do want to mess with the z. And I don't want any dampen. So let's do something like the z. Let's hard code this to some value that seems reasonable. So how about 0.2f? Okay, it's complaining at errors. Oh yeah, because I probably haven't. There we go. Missing a brace there. So make flyways. Cool. So let's see if this even works. So let's go to here. Let's copy this. And let's replace dustring with flyways. So make flyaways true. And then fly away color. Let's leave that. Let's put it at. Let's make it magenta so we can really tell what's going on here. And I want to turn off the dustring for the time being so I can actually see how these particles behave. So Johan is saying that the price for Delaware is a bit too cheap, and I tend to agree, and I think we are planning on. So I'll talk about this now and see how the community reacts, at least the community that watches my stream. I think we were talking about raising the price, and I think the price point we were talking about was going from $7.99 to $9.99, which isn't a huge jump, but I'm curious to see what people think about that. So I know people will always complain about the price, but we think the $2 bump, considering the amount of effort we put into improving it over the past 3 years, we think it's worth it. But I'm curious to see what you folks think. That's cool. Yeah. So yeah, look at that. So these little white particles. Basically, what I want. Whoa. So sometimes they're way crazy, sometimes they're not. But basically, what I want to do is for those particles is to attach a particle emitter system to them, so they put off little dust puffs like the little arrow thing I was talking about. Yeah, and that's very kind of you guys to say that we could charge more, and we might be able to. I want to start communicating it now, and I think what we're going to do is when we do the price jump, when we release, we're going to keep it at $7.99, mark down, or we'll raise the price to $9.99, but mark it down temporarily at release so folks have a small window to catch it at the right price. But like, it was a weird situation because we actually sat down at Steam Dev Days with just like a Valve person and kind of spoke to them about some of our thoughts. And one of the things we did was like talk to them about changing our price, and like it's one of those things where Valve really doesn't care what you do. They have like things like suggestions and stuff, but just talking through it, I think that's kind of where we landed. Yeah, I don't know. Like price is it's so hard too because like you always like you compare, even though the games aren't necessarily comparable. Like when you put yourself at a certain price point, you start getting compared to other games at that price point, and then like this, the question of whether you're worth it or not gets thrown around. It's strange. But pricing is hard. Okay, so Flyway is cool. What I want to do, um, yeah. So these are my Flyways. This is going to be ugly for the time being, but um, can I do something like? This is going to be real bad. So this is going to have to be prototypey stuff. Um, so let's say particle emitter PE equals new particle emitter, and I don't know if it takes any. Okay, so PE dot um, let me say particle. So particle start text is equal to 18. PE dot particle int text equals 23. PE dot full particle float equals true. And I goof something up here in text. What else do I want? PE dot particle. Let me see. So let me just see if I can, when I attach this to the particle, what if it actually starts emitting these things. So PE dot particle. What's the property I'm looking for? There should be an interval, spawn interval equals. Let's make it crazy. So let's like 2. Let me just also pop over to the editor and make sure that these properties are reasonable. So Chris is pointing out that the price of the game should be based on hours of enjoyment, and then so he said if that's the pricing, then all the games are priced incorrectly. Yeah, so pricing is such a weird thing. So here particle start text, in-text, particle, I'm just kind of reviewing all these properties to make sure that the ones I'm starting out with seem to be reasonable. Lifetime is 50, so let's do that. P dot particle lifetime equals 50. Spawn interval is 5. So 2 shouldn't be terribly awful. Let's just start there. So then what I need to do is p.attach PE. So I'm attaching an emitter to a particle. So let's just see what that does. Hopefully I don't. This is going to be a performance hit, but hopefully I can straighten it out eventually. Yeah, I mean, because to be honest, like, okay, the particle emitter is not actually behaving like I thought it ought. Also, I have another instance of, I have the Delbert, and there we go, Delta edit still running. So let me try that again. Yeah, because basically what makes a game a success or not ultimately is basically if you look at like basically the raw number of man hours that was put into the project, and then times that hourly wage, um, and then if the game makes that, then it's a wash, right? Um, so and it's just these weird theories like if you price it lower, you'll sell more, but you'll make less per individual sale. So it's just a weird. Um, right. Yeah. So Tuman is saying, yeah, for the folks here on the stream already, I guess you most likely folks already own the game, and there's probably not going to be any sort of uh, people who already own it don't care if we raise the price because it doesn't impact them. I was also mostly asking because a lot of the folks who do watch are developers themselves, and also players. So I'm curious, like from a developer's perspective, what they think, and then from a player's perspective, what they think. Mostly, if from a player's perspective, they think the value proposition is okay, and these particles are not. So do particles not tick attached? Um, uh, mm, yeah, um, so if I particle extends sprite, which extends entity, and then I think entity itself has the tick attached, and this is part of tick. So I could just because it looks like particle here has its own tick, which is an override, which means the entity's tick is not getting called. Um, um, so since this is doing a lot of specialized logic, I'm kind of wary of calling uh, like letting it call the superclasses tick. So maybe I'll just copy the chunk that I think I need and put it in there. So Himbon says the game already costs him $9.99, which he's not sure how much they paid it originally. They thought it was 15. No, it's always been $7.99. Um, it's never been higher than that. On Android, I think it's $3.99, which is about the ceiling for a lot of Android titles. Um, yeah, and also yeah. So again, yeah, there's all sorts of crazy expectations. Like people assume like pixel art games are easier to make versus um, say non-pixel art games, which isn't necessarily true. Um, so this is entity. I want to paste this into particle because I want particle to actually. Um, this might be a crazy world I'm getting into. Actually, have the particle tick attached. Oh, wait, is that right? Why is it? So it just does tick attached at the very end. So tick attached level and delta. So I should just follow suit and just here delete this. And then at the end of this method, just tick my attached. Cool. Also, maybe I should, again, maybe lift this first part too, because, well, maybe not. Let me just see how it behaves, and then I can kind of suss out the small details of this whole physics sleeping and needing to, because basically in the entity it calls ticked attached in two different places, and obviously there's some logic that warrants that. I don't fully understand it, So I'm going to see if my kind of naive implementation works, and if it doesn't, I need to actually sit down and better understand why. Okay, so yeah. Whoa! Oh man, this is. What on earth is it doing? Oh, I feel like I should screen cap that just because it's so amazing. Um, Whew, yeah, let's screen cap this because this is comedy gold. Um, uh, and then I need to be better about promoting like craziness because those of you who watch my streams, crazy things do happen. Um, and yeah, so let's just embrace the chaos. Let's just go ahead and make it 320. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think the size doesn't matter too much. Um, let's launch this. Let's. Yeah, I just use GIFCam. It's a quick and pretty easy to use little screen cap software. So let's just resize all of Delver to fit in there because yeah, that's something. Let's play this. Okay. Also, let me quit. Let's go to options, turn the UI size way down. Play that and see if it is any better. Yeah, there we go. It always seems to be like, yeah, so it's always the, the third one. Okay, so I definitely need to record this. Okay, so play. Let's go to inventory, record. I want to try to get 30 frames a second if I can. That might be too big, but let's just try that. So record, and then let's do this. There we go. I think I got it. Okay. So now I can do something like edit because I mean, this is way long. Because here at the end is when it's doing the crazy stuff, which is gonna be kind of hard to ballpark. Let me just preview it too and see what it looks like. Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like Chad is loving the insanity. Um, yeah, cool. Okay, so let me just chop this down so it is reasonably a reasonable length. So let's do something like this is where all the explosions happen. So I can do the after easier. So let's just do something like all the crazy particles. Hmm. I wish I knew better how to use this software that I'm using right now. Um, Let me just try delete from this frame to end. Preview. Yeah, I thought about it would be interesting maybe to have some sort of entity that creates smoke to kind of obscure the player vision, but like because particles are something you can turn down, that would just be an easy thing to. Okay, so I still need to chop off more off the end. It looks like. Seems strange. Um, oh yeah, so here's my inventory screen there. So I definitely need to maybe just delete from this frame to end. Okay, let's preview that. Yeah, like, yeah. So they're making J.J. Abrams and Michael Bay comments, which, yeah, like you could definitely go overboard on these visual effects. You have to try to, you have to rein in like your like instinct to like throw bloom or lens flare and everything. Um, but I'm kind of proud that the Delver engine can handle like that amount of particles just going crazy all over the place. Uh, Again, another testament to uh, Chad's efforts in making sure that a little game is performant. Okay, and then we chop off the front half of this. Edit. Let me just go somewhere. It's almost like I'm watching it. So back off. So that's where so that's where right there is where we're spawning. So maybe delete from this frame to start. Okay, and then let's. So I'm trying to get this into like a. If it's too large, I can't tweet it. So I'm just trying to chop this down to make it. Yeah. So let's see if Twitter likes this size. So save. Let's just save it to desktop. This wand is fine. Tweets, photos or video, open. Okay. So yeah. So tweet. Sorry, this is gonna be like. Let me see if Twitter even likes it, because sometimes when you attach the file, it will come back. Like there we go, cool. So it looks like wow, it looks like it went. So let me see. Again, trying to get the whole social stuff going on. Yeah, there we go. I'm glad I captured that little moment. I'm glad people are around to witness it happening. So yeah, back to the stream. Um, um, I actually use so 2 minutes saying should use OBS instead. I actually use OBS to stream. That's what I actually am capturing what you're watching right now. So I'm curious what you mean. Um, if you could clarify how OBS would help me in that regard, that would be amazing. Okay, get my UI size back to a reasonable size. Thank you for the like. Um, yeah, so yeah, I appreciate all the. Is it just because the man? Usually when particles behave crazy like that, it's because um, they are set to collide and they're spawning on top of each other and they start doing crazy things. So let me just make sure. Let me take a look at that. And actually, I'm sorry, I have to do another of these, but I need to take a little break real quick. It will be fast, I promise. I feel bad because I do like one of these in every stream now too. Stream splash text equals too much. I do one of these every stream. Sorry, and time equals. Let me see if I can get it right this time. 11, 20, 2016, and uh, 13, 30. Is it right? Is it right? Yes. All right. Woo! Totally jazzed. Yeah, all this coffee. Yeah. Again, I drink a lot of coffee. Maybe that's why I have trouble sleeping at night. It's like it's one of those things where it's I get this cycle of drinking too much coffee, staying up too late, not getting any sleep, etc. So yeah, cool. So thank you guys for supporting me in that silly little tweet. I think it's important as folks who make small games that silly stuff like that helps us bring attention and also helps kind of reveal some of our development process because things don't always go smoothly and sometimes they go hilariously wrong, and it's important to capture that stuff. Um, yeah. So folks are asking about the large door in the snowy area. I'm not going to spoil it, um, but I guess I'll semi-spoil it. Eventually, it will be something, but right now, it's not. Um, uh, ba- 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 ba. Yeah. So Voom has said, "Have I tried taking melatonin?" Yeah, I've tried taking melatonin. I've also recently I tried taking a like some sleep medication, and the bad thing about the sleep medication is it made me sleep too long, and being a stay-at-home dad, I can't really afford to do that. Like I woke up like an hour later than I should have, and my son was crying, and I felt like really awful. Fortunately, he was fine. There's nothing wrong with him. He was awake, and his crying didn't wake me up like it normally did. So I don't know. It's trying to find a balance in all things. Trying to find a balance with time raising my son. Trying to find a balance with spending time with my partner. Trying to find a balance in making Delver, and then still trying to find a little bit of time for me. to do things I enjoy. I mean, I do enjoy making Delver, but now it's kind of a job. So um, it's funny when like something becomes a job. It like I don't know, like it just takes on a different quality. Okay, so let's go back to these flyers and fix them. So a couple of things with the flyers. I think let me see. Make flyaways. Okay, yeah. So let's try lowering that z velocity because sometimes it seems fine and sometimes it seems crazy. Um, Also, let's do the PE particle collide equals false. Let's see where this puts us. Pertev Gap says, "Great stream, thank you. I always like I really enjoy streaming because I enjoy doing this kind of work. But I always like I really worry that people will find this interesting or not interesting. Apparently, some folks do, and uh, that's cool. You know, like so not cool. Getting there. Getting there. So I think another thing too is I don't want any velocity on the x or the y. I just want them to basically stay put, and then the particle they're attached to will animate, and that's what will give the illusion of them actually moving. If that makes sense. So Hemban says, "Am I broadcasting on Steam that I'm going live?" So I have a dedicated thread in the Steam forums for this stream, and I always post 30 minutes to an hour before I go live. I'm not sure how many folks actually see it because it's a pinned thread, so I don't know how. Whoa! I also wonder too, like, I think it's a particle pool issue too. That now that I'm attaching stuff to particles, occasionally when new particles are created, they will inherit this attached thing. So need to be careful about that. Particles collide is false. PE dot particles float equals true. On the cache pools, let me see. Is tick attached? Is there a remove attached? I know there's a get attached. I wonder if I just null it out if that's sufficient. Again, this is prototype code. This is probably it's going to be gross, but I can come back and fix it up later. So on the cache pools, on free particle, there's only one free particle, so I should be able to do something like p dot attached. Or is that a private member? Yeah, it's protected. So how do I free these things up correctly? Do these track their own lifetime? If lifetime is less than 0, active is false, and let's say this dot attached equals null. So that should get rid of the attached particle emitters so they don't just randomly spawn. which is hilarious, but again, not quite um, what I intend. Oh, so I think Hebon is or they are implying. Sorry for assuming gender. It's not my intention. That I can use Steam to actually send out broadcasts, which is not a bad idea. So like on Steam, I can send out a quick little broadcast saying that Delver development is going live, and that way it would pop up on everybody's Steam that has Delver, which is an interesting idea. Like, would it be too obnoxious, um, or would folks would a weekly broadcast be okay with folks? What do you folks think? I'm curious. Is it like it seems like let me just zero out these velocities just to make sure because they seem to be still behaving strangely. Um, so let me see. So Chad is asking, since I can attach values to a sprite, it does mean that you can attach damage values to sprites. Um, kind of. Um, I could make particles hurt you. That would be a little bit of a code change, but it technically should be possible. And again, I'm primarily the artist. I've only recently been doing a little bit of code changes here and there. And that's mostly just to support the art I'm doing. Um, I'm still curious why. So if I just spawn one of these darn things, how does it behave? Yeah, so Himam, that is a very good suggestion. I think I will try that. I will try that next Sunday and see what folks think. But yeah, it is definitely a tool that I could be using. So that's one particle, and they're shooting out in all directions crazily, which uh, which is weird. So let me lower that spawn interval to 5. Um, so have a pe dot particles. Uh, there's a velocity property I probably need to set, which is probably what's going on. Collide, float, Fulbright, collision size, particle random spawn interval. Um, let me just go to the class and so here's the particle velocity and particle random velocity. So particle velocity, I need to, basically what's happening is it's pulling in these defaults and I need to have better defaults. So let's go to our explosion and let's say something like pe dot particle velocity equals new vector 3. And so let's say, actually, I think that should create a zero vector, which I think is okay. Let's just see if that fixes our issue of it going kind of crazy. So yeah, it seems like folks in chat are kind of cool with still behaving weird. They seem to be pretty supportive of the um, the little notifications from Steam, so I'll definitely give that a try. I think again, my issue is also coming from this particle random velocity because it has a default value of uh, basically everywhere. Let me just also set that to the zero vector. So PE dot particle new particle random velocity. There we go. Equals new vector 3. So basically, it should create now it should create particles that just stay put. Should. Okay. There we go. They should kick up. There we go. That was nice. I mean, okay. So it just goes straight up. So I need to actually go ahead and add back these, because these values here are these are for the emitter, the particle that holds the emitter, and not necessarily the particles that come out of the emitter. So let me put those back so we get the correct angle. Cool. Whoa. Yeah, so it looks like I have too much velocity. Yeah, let's just tone that down a bit. Oh, because I was using it on the smoke ring, which was using dampen, so this probably needs to be less times. Let's take it down by a factor of 10. Cool, let's create ourselves a wand. There we go, that looks closer to what I want. It seems like it's not getting enough z velocity sometimes. Let me try upping that just a touch. So let me see. So Gazillionaire says, "Hey there, just want to give a suggestion. You should make text in your text editor bigger so people can see it without having to go full screen. That way they can chat too." This game looks really well made. Thank you. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. So that brings up an interesting point. Are folks actually reading the code, or are you just listening to me articulate my process of how I'm going through solving problems? I'm kind of curious, because if you actually do want to see the code, I'm... Whoa. That's cool, but probably too much. So I think I toned down the X and Y random too much, and I toned up the Z way too much. So let's make this 1.5 or 1.15. So a factor of 10 was too much. Let's go ahead and have that. So that should be 0.75. And again, I think also I would clear it with Chad before I actually make the text big enough. Like, I don't think we're popular enough that people would like be lifting our code from my stream, but I guess it might be a concern, might not. Yeah, so folks are oh yeah, so folks are commenting that they can read the code. Yeah, but I'll bring it up with Chad since 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 folks seem to be interested in it. Let me also, that seems to be, let's also crank up the amount back to, I think, 4. So Chris is making a nice little comment about he doesn't see code, he sees redhead, blonde, brunette. Um, Good old The Matrix. It still seems like hmm. So it seems something. So the I guess my problem now is it looks like the particles inherit the emitter's position. So um, as the emitter moves, so do the particles, and that's why it's looking not quite correct. Um, Let me take a look and see why that is the case. Um, so Partev Gap is saying, "Did I compose the music for Delver?" No, no, no. So I guess there's some new folks in the stream, and I really appreciate you guys coming by, you folks stopping by to check out me work on my game. Just kind of so there's like 10 minutes left. I try to keep my streams to roughly 2 hours, so I'll try to do a wrap up here. If there's anything you guys would like to see me do or work on, let me know. But so I'm Joshua. I am one half of the Delver development team. There are 2 of us working on Delver. We work on it in our free time. Um, so basically, this is our side project, which is a passion project. We love it. We've been working on it for 3 years. Chad's working on it almost 4. Chad is the other half of Delver. He does all the programming and business side of things and design. I do the majority of I do all the art, both 2D and 3D. We have had some help with some promotional art and some animations with some other folks, mostly, or I guess an artist named Sam Garcia has helped us with some promotional art. He's an excellent illustrator, and a pixel animator artist named Hunter has helped us out with some animations, and he does some really good work as well. But yeah, so for the most part, it's just 2 of us, and we contract out the stuff that we're not good at. So I am mostly, by trade, I'm a programmer, but I really am into art, so I do all the art on the project. Um, we do we have 2 composers. White Wolf Music did all the original music for Delver, and I believe White Wolf Music had some sort of basically could no longer commit the amount of time needed to continue making music for us, which is fine. I appreciate that White Wolf Music let us know that. So now we have our new musician is Nathan, and he is excellent. Um, so no, I didn't make the music. Yeah, that was a very roundabout way of saying no. Um, so a particle emitter, does it have a property? So because for some reason it seems to be inheriting the position. And it seems like in the editor, it doesn't exhibit that behavior. So in here, if I add a particle emitter, and I go into interactive mode, and then I drag it around, it seems to behave correctly, because here I'm translating the emitter and the particles are doing their own thing. But in the other case, they seem to be um, inheriting the emitter's translation. So again, I think Chad and I have talked about the soundtrack, and we would like to include that as an option. Um, uh, uh, for folks, because there have been a number of folks who have been asking for it, so I think that just makes sense that if people are asking for it, we should offer it to them. We haven't made any final decisions on like what or how that's going to take uh, or how that's going to happen. So level spawn. So owner is not equal to null. Where does this owner property come from? Weird. So this owner is getting set somewhere. Maybe when it's attached, it actually is that what it's doing? So if I really quickly just comment this out, is that what's happening? Yeah, that is way more like what I was wanting it to look like. It's beautiful. So let me, and that's also nice that I'm getting it working like within the last few minutes of the um, stream. So I don't necessarily want to override existing behavior, so I'll probably expose another property um, to basically let the particle either stay use like whatever it's attached to its positioning, or it can just use like global positioning versus local, I guess. If you folks understand what that means, I'm sure you do, because you guys are smart and you're lovely folks. Okay, so what I want to do is back in my explosion, I want to really ramp up the spawn interval to 2 and say have the lifetime to say 25. Because I'm just again now I'm trying to tweak it to get the correct particle shape. So Pertev Gap says it's impossible for this game to have co-op based on how sprites are displayed to the player. Um, so that is one issue. So our sprites have no concept of like facing, so they always face the player. That's beautiful. They might be a little too, the flyers might be a little too extreme, and sometimes they just get stuck in the ground. So maybe I need to make sure that they're offset on the Z. Yeah, that's still a lot of. So let me try and I'm just gonna eyeball this 5.5, make this something like that. I think the shape of the particle is okay. I guess people always ask us about multiplayer, and the real issue with multiplayer is not the sprites themselves, but just the way this is a custom built engine. It's not Unity. It's a custom built engine that Chad wrote in Java. It's based on a libgdx framework and uses OpenGL. And the problem is it was not designed to be multiplayer. So yes. Sorry, I'm just kind of enjoying that this is looking more like what I want it to look like. And also, let's go real quick, and then in this items like that, add the make string true. Yeah, so people always ask about multiplayer, and the problem is we didn't design it for multiplayer. So the big issue is like there's a whole bunch of net code we'd have to write that we don't have, and also like how you handle serializing the procedural generation across the wire is a non-trivial issue that I think would be better suited for a new project and not necessarily Delver. Yeah, it's looking good. Is it the same spawn color? All right, yeah. So let's make these colors the same so they feel a little bit more cohesive. And I like Chris's suggestion too of maybe having like the flyaways be hot. So like they start at a like a yellow or an orange color and they cool off. Um, yep, yep, yep. Chris and I are thinking the same thing. So yeah, I will probably tweak that a little bit, but I'm just trying to make sure that the shape is looking cool. And that's nice. I think I need to play with some of the. I need to make sure the starting Z value is high enough that they don't get stuck in the ground, and probably still tweak that velocity a little bit. But I think it's looking cool. It's looking really nice. I might also tweak down the scale a little bit too. Let's try that. So on the flyway, PE dot particle scale start scale equals 0.005, and that should be equals, not minus. That's cool. What else? Had a thought. I lost it. So Encrypted Cow says you don't want to do what Don't Starve did and make an entirely new game and change previous owners for it, charge previous owners for it. Um, yes and no. Like, so if I were if like we have kicked Chad and I have kicked around the idea of making Delver with friends, basically like a multiplayer Delver. But if that would be the case, I would not want to make it Delver. I would want to make the theme and the gameplay different enough so that um, for our like continued developed success, like it's nice to have two products that aren't cannibalizing each other. So if we did make a multiplayer version of this, it would be different enough to make sure that they both stand on their own. Um, yes, the ZZZ. Um, so yeah, so this is P dot Z plus equals, and then some very small value, just to make sure that it's off the ground. And I'm not saying that what Don't Starve is wrong. I'm just saying for us as two folks who are trying to like do more development, I would want to have two separate products rather than one product that kind of I would feel invalidate the other. What is it doing? Uh, let me push them up higher, I guess. Maybe that's not the case, and maybe Don't Starve and Don't Starve with Friends or together, they sell equally well. It I'm just kind of going off my gut, you know, and yeah. And I think people are bringing up interesting points because the one perspective is that um, like Don't Starve Together should have been a free add-on, but other folks are pointing out that because they had to rewrite the thing entirely, it's basically a whole new project, and financially it makes more sense if you charge for it. I see both sides of it. Nice. They're still like getting stuck in the ground sometimes because I want these things. Okay, so I think we made decent progress on this stream where we have a nice little explosion effect happening. And the particles are getting kicked out and they're doing cool things. It's not quite perfect yet, but it will get there. Let me think. We're gonna look at chat and touch on some stuff before I sign off here. So there's still talk debating the whole Don't Starve versus Don't Starve together. Um, so Protect Gap says, will there be more lore added to the game in the next update? Um, so right now there's no plan for adding more lore. To be honest, right now lore is kind of just a it's just there. Like unfortunately, not a lot of love and thought have been put into the lore. I know Chad writes the lore, but right now to me it feels just very I don't know, like in our minds, there's kind of a lore, and as the artist, I try to tell as much of that as I can through like level design and like a visual design, which is hard to do. Like Dark Souls did it awesome, but you know, like we have no descriptions for our items, so we can't rely on a similar trope for that. Um, so right now, there's no plan for upping the lore count. That would be something easy for folks to mod in, but we haven't. We no. Um, okay, so uh, Sudurbhai 444 says, "This is Minecraft." No, this is not Minecraft. This is a game called Delver, which is I am one of the developers on. There's two of us. It's a procedurally generated dungeon crawl. I'm just gonna play a few more minutes just using my new Explodey wand. Um, uh, Obviously this is a debug Explodey wand because it has like, whoa, that was strange. Looked like the magic particle actually got caught on the spike trap, which is something that should not happen. Um, I'll see if I can repro that sometime later, unless you folks can reproduce it also. I'm just gonna blow up people with my Explodey wand and let chat kind of chat a little bit. Whoa! Um, um, I'm pretty sure that the notes can be modded in. I'd have to double check that. Um, I'm fairly certain. I think it's just there's just a text file we pull little random bits of lore out of. Uh, so Sir Suderpie says, how did you make this game? So this game has been in development for 4 years. I've been on the project 3 as the primary artist and doing a lot of level design and a lot of like I do all the 2D 3D art. Chad has been whoa, doing the programming side of things, and it's just been like we do it in our free time, so it's just we try to make time. We make time for this to develop it. I mean, it's a passion project, so we make we kind of like I don't really go out anymore. Also, partly because I'm a father, but also partly because this is like my priority: get it done and get it shipped. Um, yeah. Yeah, it's more talk about like environmental storytelling, which I think is cool, which I think we can do a better job of, and that's my job to do better. So that's cool. I had a thought, and I think I just lost it. Let me just go down a level, just cheat. Um, the explosions should probably have a decent amount of knockback because right now they don't. I also need to figure out. There's just a lot more tweaking that needs to happen with the explosion, but I think it's getting to a good place. The flyaways.
Hello?
I don't know if they should last, if their lifetime should be shortened, or if they should. I don't know. But there's something maybe that can be tweaked there to make them look a little bit better. Because when they're just sitting there on the ground smoking, they don't look as nice as they do when they're flying through the air. And that's probably some tweaking of values. Yeah, so Chris is excited for the new weapons. Yeah, I'm really excited to get all these new weapons into players' hands and get feedback on what they think is good and what they think is not good. Um, Again, this is just trying to be tactical with our time and try to make like the most of it. So we're trying to this for this update, there was a big push to improve the experience of the. So initially we started off with saying particle effects are going to be nicer, and the UI is going to be nicer, and this kind of except staying on top of that, this kind of transformed into um, particle effects are nicer, but also like the wands um, are better. I think there's a back clip somewhere. Um, that the particle effects are nicer, the wands are nicer, and that we differentiate the wands. The wands were pretty samey, um, to be honest, and we're trying to make them actually behave and feel differently. Um, and also, there was a big push to shore up the archery. So the archery now should be much nicer and feel like real archery or closer to real archery because it was pretty bad previously. There's also been some updates as well to allowing melee weapons to be enchanted, um, which was already there, but we've kind of enhanced that system a little bit as well. These enhancements also, or enchantments, also apply to the bows, which is cool, and that all should work proper. And unfortunately, these have been the things we've been working on, and the UI hasn't got a lot of love. Chads are doing a little bit of improvements there, but I still think more work could be done. Um, okay, so I've gone over my allotted schedule, but that's okay. But I do need to sign off here. Let me just uh, read chat, and then I'll say goodbye. Um, yeah. So Chris is just giving feedback on the explosion of the wand. Yeah. So I think the fiery explosion probably needs like a like a quick little flash of light, and also there's some other things I want to add to it. But I think it's definitely heading in the correct direction. So let me just say thank you to everybody who has kind of hung out with me the past couple hours. For those of you who are new, I do development streams every Sunday at noon Pacific time. So this is just my regular weekly stream. I do bonus streams very occasionally. I used to do them like every other week, and now I haven't done one probably in a month, and I apologize. Um, I typically do my bonus streams whenever I have free time, and just lately that's been very hard to come across. I will try to get one next week. Hold me accountable. If you guys want to see a bonus stream this week, please tweet me and say, "Hey, Joshua, when's it coming?" Because if you do bug me, I will make time to do it. But sometimes it's just in the evenings, like I'm exhausted from wrestling with my son all day, trying to keep him like happy and entertained and fed and all that good stuff. That by the time my wife comes home and I spend time with her, it's late in the evening and I just want to go to sleep, but I can't. But I have to try to sleep. It's a weird situation. So yeah, so if you want to see me do a bonus stream, let me know. Um, Otherwise, thank you for all your support, both financially and also just for hanging out with me. And I will see you folks next Sunday. Bye.